Buenos días, buenas tardes, y buenas noches, bonjour, bonsoir, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, wherever you may be. Not Jay Slater case, not John George case, not Three Brighton Sisters case. It is the debacle of the England team in the World Cup case. And I'm going to give you my take with one or two controversial points, no doubt, opinion, but based on what I consider a pretty good record of my own coaching this sport. I never lost a game as a coach at Tamberley School. That, by the way, is just to get the accident group now checking to see if I'm lying or not. Okay, I will save you some time, Laurie, rather than you dive into the record books to find out what my coaching record was at Tamberley School. I did happen to lose some games as coach for the under 10s, but not many. We usually won. Not a lot to do with me, I must say. We had a good batch of players, and yeah, the head coach of the whole program was also dedicated and very good. I digress. I'm just saying, as a coach, I'm going to give you my input here. There were some good things about last night's semi-final, Argentina and England. Let's go through the few good things that there were for both teams. Number one, it didn't go down to those agonizing penalties. We didn't have that, usually in England's case, a drama that ends in tears. So no penalties. I thought that was good. In the extra time, there was no extra time. So in the extra time, where it looked like to me England were tiring very, very badly, there was no extra time humiliation. Thomas Tuchel having brought on, was it six defenders? I don't think extra time would have gone our way, but we were spared that. So no penalties, that's good. No extra time, that was good. It was over in the 90 or so minutes that we had playing there. Other good things for England. England scored a goal, and that was good to see. And it was the first goal, so it gave us hope, us in the sense of those that were willing England to win. Everyone had hope right up until the very end. These, I think, are all good things. If you would have preferred Argentina to win by four or five clear goals, yeah, so be it. I like close games. I like exciting games. I like fast, free flowing games. We didn't get that, but at least there were certain things about this game that were, from a neutral perspective, truly appreciated. The first half was pretty turgid but predictable, and it was very close. I didn't think there was much in it between the two teams in the first half. Argentina had one clear-cut chance. A Stones header that went woefully wide was England's one chance. So at half time, not a lot to say either way about this game. The second half, so much to say, so much to say. So let's deal with the issues at hand. First of all, it looked to me as the second half got underway, well, indeed, as the match got underway, it looked to me that England were slower and were not as punchy to get to the ball, and punchy in the sense of quick and direct. I thought they looked sluggish. And that's not necessarily a criticism. What I'm saying is, I think the last few games have taken their toll on the starting 11 for England. They just, compared to Argentina, looked a second off, a fraction of a second off, getting to a 50-50 ball. And certainly the passing was not as accurate. The tippy tappy stuff from Argentina, even through the second half, even when they were a goal down, looked crisp, sharp, accurate. I just think England were off the boil technically. Now, what could have been done about that? To me, it looked like fresh pairs of legs were needed almost from the beginning. And as always, it seems with England, it took a while for the manager to be convinced that any changes had to be made. But that's what I felt. That some fresh legs, even fresh faces, people possibly that hadn't played in the World Cup so far, should have been on there at an early stage when really younger, more athletic performers were sorely needed out there. Argentina were one step ahead. Even when they were a goal down, they seemed to be one step ahead, getting the ball across the field, up the field, and getting back to defend. Now, let's get to the meat and drink of what happened last night. Here, some really massive mistakes were made. And I think because against Mexico, England had survived defending a one goal lead right at the end. For some bizarre reason, Thomas Tuchel thought the same thing could happen against Argentina. But for most of us watching this game, it looked pretty damn obvious that if you just try to defend against this team, who aren't Mexico, this is the world champions, then it ain't going to work out well. And the writing was on the wall. There were one or two excellent chances for Argentina before their two goals went in. So the criticism here, as everyone else has said, I think Thomas Tuchel to have convinced himself that defending a one goal lead for 30 minutes or so against the world champions is going to work out didn't make any sense. And bear in mind, again, I shouldn't say we, England has a history of doing this. Only 8 years ago, the World Cup before this, 1-0 up against Croatia and lost to Croatia. This seems to be a semi-final pattern that seems to happen now. Go a goal up, try to defend it and lose 2-1, what have you. Tuchel should have known this. He should have realized that this isn't the way to perform. And I've got to be honest with you, obviously the better team won. I don't think anyone's going to argue with that. Argentina were better on the night. They deserved their victory. But I don't want to see this. Some people have used the word cowardly. I don't want to see the cowardly approach. I don't want to see a team that is one goal up and then just defends, hoping that they will win 1-0. That's not my idea of football. It isn't the Latin America in general. It isn't the Latin America idea of football. Traditionally, you have your Brazils, your Argentinas, your free-flowing Colombians, and the rest of it. That if they concede a goal, they still believe they're going to score two goals to beat you in the end. It's almost that one goal against you is just the wake up call to start getting back into the game. And I think that's the difference. I think with England, you score a goal and you think, can we hold on to that to win? Um, it should never be the philosophy against a very competitive Latin American team that that one goal is going to be enough. So now we get into the controversial part of it because I've got this background up here. And I've got this background up here because to me, it shows that this Argentinian team are absolutely united in their devotion and their love for their home country. They are making a political statement here. Yeah, Las Malvinas son Argentinas. The Falkland Islands belong to Argentina. And while I disagree with the message, I think the Falkland Islands belong to the Falkland Islanders, and whatever future the Falkland Islanders want for their island nation, island group, island territory, should be what happens to them. While I disagree with the message, I can see that this Argentinian team are passionate about their homeland. That Spanish phrase, todo por la patria, everything for the homeland, was on the line for these guys last night. You could tell that from the very first moments before the game started. If you watch the England side sing the national anthem, well, did they all sing the national anthem? Do they all know the words to the national anthem? What does that national anthem mean to them? Was it a stirring moment that ratcheted up their intensity one level when they sang that national anthem, if they did do so? All I can say is when you go back and watch Argentina sing their national anthem, it is an eyeballs out, blood and guts moment when they are displaying to the world their absolute devotion to their country and their dedication to what that country means to them to get this victory tonight, last night. There is an enormous difference there. Let me put it in some other terms here so you understand. My experience of being in Argentina, been there 3 times, never been way down south, been to Buenos Aires for a short visit, but spent quite a long time in the northern part, in the desert part, the town of San Juan. I know pretty well. Mendoza, Cordoba, a little bit. Doesn't really matter. I can tell you what my impressions of Argentinians are in general. They are, first of all, very intensely patriotic, and very proud of their country. To a man, to a woman. Yes, you're going to find a few that are, flaky, but we're talking about in general. And in general, their sports representatives are absolutely dedicated to their country. Like I say, even though I disagree with this message, I don't think the patriotic fever is in the England team to have even thought about carrying a banner out that says something like Gibraltar is British. Why? Because I don't think the England team has that much of a connection with what England stands for. And what would England stand for in the minds of those players that were playing against Argentina? Let's turn it around. I think if you spoke to any of these Argentinian guys as little kids and said, "What's your life's dream? If you're going to be a professional footballer, what is your life's dream?" I would predict every one of them would say to play for Argentina in the World Cup. I'm not so sure you get the same answer from a load of English kids that like football. What is your lifelong dream? One or two might say to play for England in the World Cup. I've got a feeling most of them would say to play in the Premier League, to make a load of money out of the sport, to score lots of goals. I don't think the intensity of playing for your country, in the case of England, is anywhere near the level that you see for Argentina. The Argentinian people, by and large, are products of immigration from 2 centuries or so, 2 or 3 centuries, from Spain and Italy. That is their identity. The native population basically diluted, died out. There is almost no African former slave presence in Argentina. It is for South America. Maybe Chile is slightly more homogeneous, but it is basically one country, one identity, and that's it. You very rarely come across an Argentinian that is, let's say, an Argentinian, I don't know, Argentinian Pole, an Argentinian American, an Argentinian Spaniard. They're Argentinian. I'm not saying it's bad to say that you are a Irish American, Jamaican British, Moroccan French. I'm not saying it's a bad thing at all. I'm just saying in situations like this, these people have no possibility of having a divided loyalty. It is 100% Argentinian. That's how they identify. Whether the last name is McAllister, whether the last name is Messi, whether the last name is Alvarez, Fernandez, they are 100% Argentinian. There are many teams in this World Cup that do not have players that have a 100% loyalty and identity to anywhere. Check out how many are foreign born, but playing for a country that they have become a citizen of, or their parents did. Sometimes that driving force of playing and giving everything for the homeland is the difference between winning and losing. The heart that you bring into that struggle in the last 15 or 20 minutes. Not always. It could be that the technique of the players, the skills of the players, the athleticism of the players is the trump card. And their devotion to their country and their drive for the patria, the homeland, the fatherland to do well. Yeah, maybe that's not enough, especially in the smaller countries. But all things being equal, in a situation of cateris paribus, if it comes down to the last 15, 20 minutes, and it's your patriotism that's going to make a difference, I would put my money on these guys every time. Doesn't matter who they're playing. Every time. Well, maybe Japan is also very much a one culture place, one identity place. But yeah, Argentina is rather special, I would say. So obviously, it was a horrendous tactical error for Thomas Tuchel to bring on defenders when Argentina were putting on forwards, because all that did was confine England to that area around, in their own half, around their own box, just a matter of time between these skilled guys were going to get a goal and, as it turned out, a second goal. I don't know why. I don't think anyone was surprised. Maybe Thomas Tuchel was surprised. I don't think anyone apart from Thomas Tuchel wasn't surprised by what happened. Disappointed, yeah, but not really surprised. It was a horrendous tactical error. But what angers me is we've seen it before. Like I say, with the Croatia last semi-final. Just want to point out Argentina's success rate in semi-finals. Refer to notes here. Argentina won all six World Cup semi-finals they've been in. All six. Now, for all those people out there saying, well, Argentina's or FIFA's corrupt and Argentina's get the referees to go there, give their decisions go their way. Okay, well, if FIFA is corrupt, that's not Argentina's problem. I don't think Messi, Alvarez, Fernandez, Martinez, McAllister, I don't think they're out there with wads of cash handing it over to the ref. I don't think the Football Federation of Argentina is handing over wads of cash to FIFA. I don't think so. I don't know, but I don't think so. But even if it were, if that were the case, that Argentina is so dedicated to winning this World Cup, they have offered bribes to FIFA, then how do you explain the other six semi-finals or five semi-finals where the same thing has happened? Argentina has turned up, maybe gone a goal down, and won. How do you explain it? It can't be Argentinian corruption every single time. If it is Argentina paying off the officials every single time, then maybe the solution to that is England and other teams have to pay a higher price. Is that what we're saying here? In the absence of any evidence, I think it's rather sour grapes to say that Messi and co have got to the final through some kind of corruption. You see it. La Pulga, La Pulga, Lionel Messi. Absolute hats off to the guy. From my perspective, fantastic player. Throughout his career, this little guy has been chopped down, bundled over, trampled on, anything to stop him. We saw it last night again. There was a moment where Messi had the ball and Jed Spence couldn't get the ball off him. Harry Kane came back from a forward position, tried to get the ball. He couldn't. He wrapped his arm around Messi, still couldn't get the ball off him. Anthony Gordon showed up, couldn't get the ball off him. In the end, Anderson got a yellow card by throwing himself, basically, colliding full force into Messi, so Messi hit the deck. 39-year-old, still Maradona-esque, waltzing through some of the best players in England. Hats off to the guy. It is still true at his age that in order to stop him moving down the field with the ball and his phenomenal dribbling skills on display, the only way is to foul him. This is why I think the guy is absolutely fantastic. I've got no idea what Messi's beliefs are. I've got no idea. Well, he obviously thinks the Malvinas should be Argentinas, but as a personality, as a character, don't know, don't care to know much about him. But as a football icon, yeah, someone who can turn a game just like that. And that last cross that he put in for the winning goal, absolutely perfect, right on the head of Martinez, was it? Perfect cross, perfect headed goal. England defence, nowhere. So, from a footballing perspective, phenomenal performance yet again from someone that's been written off time and time again. And even at 39 years old, the best players in the world, there are occasions where they can only foul him to stop him turning a game in Argentina's favour. Phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. I don't think England can go any better, can do any better than this. I think if we have luck, if England have luck, quarterfinal, semi-final is it. I'll say it one more time. I think the missing ingredients for England, not so much to do with their skills. I think, well, they're one notch below. Their passing skills, their movement off the ball. The movement off the ball last night was sluggish. It was there on occasions. Gordon's goal was phenomenal movement off the ball, but in the build-up, generally, England was sluggish to get the ball moving forward, and that is why, sadly, in the end, we saw Pickford basically just long balling it down. And sad to say, there were one or two where he long balled it down and it just went straight out. It wasn't aimed at anyone. England were never going to get that ball back. I think when you have 12% possession of the ball in the second half, you can't expect not to concede a goal. You can't expect to win. It's as simple as that. Ball possession, when it's phenomenally in the opposition's at the opposition's feet, you're going to concede against quality opposition. I don't need to go on about this, but for England, they need to overcome some of those very basic technical skill errors. And if they have luck, they can get over that. But what they can't get ever again, as far as I can see, is a devotion to playing for the country. That devotion of individual players to play for England isn't going to match the devotion that the Argentinians have, that the Japanese have. It won't have that intensity. Like I say, you might be out there, one of those saying globalism has such a positive benefit. Maybe so. But I'll say it again. The devotion to play for England and give everything for England and sacrifice everything for England is not there. It still is for Argentina. Let's see what happens in the final. Will Spain have a team that can reproduce that intensity that Argentina has? I don't know. For Argentina to score so many goals, 8 or so in the last 20 minutes of their World Cup games, it tells you not only do they have that dedication, that determination, and that drive, they also have a fitness level above most. Because when you're scoring goals in the last 10, 15 minutes, another key factor is you're just fitter, stronger, and more agile around that pitch. That's just how it is. So the level of fitness they've achieved to keep working at that work rate right till the very end and keep scoring goals through the last 15 minutes, phenomenal. The other, before I forget, the other example that Tuchel should have seen was, of course, Egypt. Egypt were 2 goals up. And I know people are going to say, oh, Egypt were robbed. Egypt were, hey, the fact of the matter is, Egypt had about, I think it was 25 minutes to go, and they were 2 up against Argentina. All they had to do was close that game down and survive 25 minutes with a 2-goal cushion. Egypt couldn't do it. Egypt conceded 3 goals in 25 minutes against Argentina. Again, why Tuchel thought that England must be a level so far superior above Egypt that we can do it, I don't know. Having seen Egypt collapse, having seen England collapse in the World Cup in Russia against Croatia, having seen all this, it just made no sense that the likes of Stones, Spence, Dan Burn, these are not world-class defenders. They're good on their day. But why the manager would think they are good enough to hold out against Argentina for all that time, I just don't get it. All right, let's leave it there. The final, Spain or Argentina. Does Spain have the will and have the know-how to defeat these guys? I kind of want Spain to win, but I kind of think if Argentina play with that commitment they showed against England and Egypt and all their other games, they deserve to be and probably will be world champions again. Let's leave it there. Hasta luego, adios, hasta la vista. See you next time.